Sandy, good morning.
Good
Just,
morning.
I guess, your reaction to what we saw and everyone's talking about this morning.
There's a lot of, you know what, at first I laughed because I was like, man, I don't know what has happened in the last 2 weeks, but it's like been permission to reveal yourself as either not understanding race, as being racist, or, just really embarrassing yourself or showing that you're on the right side of history. And I think that what happened last night was someone who, it was really frustrating to hear that that's happening in such a space. Like,
Do you take offense to that? The phrase "all lives matter"?
I take offense to the phrase "all lives matter." I don't know if I take offense to that. I think it's kind of ludicrous. I mean, I don't really know. I'm not really familiar with the Tenors, to be honest, and I think it's kind of ludicrous.
But it's the phrase "all lives matter" that bothers you more than using the anthem for political purposes.
Absolutely. All Lives Matter is a response to Black Lives Matter. It's a response to people asserting that, we deserve justice in this world. And that response is meant to silence what we're calling for. It's meant to delegitimize us. But if all lives truly mattered, then Black lives would matter too. Of course, all lives matter is a principle that we should all, espouse. But if Black lives don't matter, if we see that Black people are being killed with impunity by police, then you know that in our society that Black lives don't in fact matter. And so that call, Black Lives Matter, is to ensure that eventually all lives will matter.
Okay, well, that brings me to our next point. Yesterday, of course, there was a memorial in Dallas for the police officers that were killed there. At the same time, a Wisconsin legislator introduced a bill called Blue Lives Matter, and it would make targeting law enforcement officers a hate crime. Now, back in March of this year, I know Black Lives Matter Toronto, you were a vocal critic of a similar named fundraising campaign in Port Hope, Ontario, and you also don't like that. Do you oppose Blue Lives Matter?
Yeah, of course I do. I think that the idea that this isolated incident that's not systemic, it's not an epidemic of police officers being killed by the public. It's similar to the clear epidemic and systemic issue of Black people being killed by police, and that happening with impunity is offensive. I can't take off my skin. This isn't an occupation for me. This is something that I'm born with. I walk outside every day, and my life is going to be affected by the way that I look. Absolutely. And that's not an experience of an occupation. That's not the same thing.
So should the targeted killing of a police officer, should that be considered a hate crime? I mean, hate crime typically is against a race, a religion, a creed, to your point, not an occupation.
No, a hate crime is about identity. It's about something that you can't change about yourself. And, I'm just, it gets to this sense of despair inside when you see, you're trying to make these lawmakers, these policymakers focus on the fact that, look, this is happening to Black people. You need to do something about it. And for years, people don't respond. And this isolated incident happens, which is absolutely heinous and, a terrible, terrible thing that happened. And people react right away with a law that isn't about a systemic issue. How many police officers have died at the hands of civilians over the years versus how many Black folks have died at the hands of police over the years? It's the numbers are incomparable. There's a real problem with our community and its interactions with police, and I wish that lawmakers and policymakers were as quick to say something and do something about us.
All right, Sandy Hudson, co-founder of Black Lives Matter Toronto, thanks for coming in this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you.